Well, I'll tell you what, I was not expecting an impromptu Daryl Morey presser at 11:30 in the morning, but we finally heard from him. He finally came out and spoke regarding the team's trade deadline moves, where their head has been at all season. He revealed some information that certainly is interesting, but it's up to us to decide if we're really buying what they are preaching for the rest of the season. So we'll break it all down and get into it. Well, welcome into Philly Take with RB. I'm RB. Do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit those noties. Tell you what, man, I was not expecting this today at all. I literally just caught it at the perfect time. I listened to the whole thing, but I didn't have a lot of time to react so far because I am doing a lot of coverage over here on the Eagles channel. Go subscribe there if you do enjoy my stuff for some Super Bowl coverage. I am so pumped up for the Eagles. And I wish I could say the same for the 76ers right now. But first, before we get into Daryl Morey, we finally heard from Quentin Grimes on his trade to the Sixers. He spoke today after shoot-around. He's expected to make his debut, so we should see Quentin Grimes. Will Nick Nurse play Quentin Grimes? Will he play Jared Butler? That's a different question, but let's hear what he had to say.
Like initial reactions and stuff, like joining the team and coming here in a trade and everything.
Yeah, I'm excited, for sure to get this opportunity to come here. A team that's pushing for a playoff spot for sure. Had a lot of injuries and stuff setbacks early on with the season, but excited to be here for sure.
What was your initial reaction? Like especially considering you're playing the Sixers that night and then you get traded there. What was your reaction to it?
Yeah, definitely a little shocked a little bit. Just with when the whole Luka trade happened, I guess I wasn't too surprised. If that happened, anything can happen. But it's a little bit shocked knowing that was going to be in Dallas for a little while. But how the NBA works for sure.
So Quentin Grimes says the right thing. Happy to be here with a team that's pushing for a playoff spot. Well, kinda. We'll get into that. Let's talk about Daryl Morey today. So there were a few things that he said that I liked. There was a lot where I was like, I don't know. That's the real scoop. Like, you're kind of feeding BS into the fan base. And to be honest, a lot of the things that I've said over the last couple days really came to life. I'm glad that he came out and spoke. I'm glad that he talked. But the one phrase I've used over and over these last several days is teetering the line, right? 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And that's exactly what we saw here today from Daryl Morey. Now, I'll give him credit. He came right out and said, this has been a disappointing season. He says, quote, "We have to be realistic. It's been a disappointing season. We had a plan going into the year. Those plans are really good until you get punched in the face. We have been punched in the face this year by injury." So he used the injury excuse a lot in this press conference, which is true, right? You're not going to win. He did say you're not going to win a championship when one of your big three is hurt. But he did continue to intend to build this way. He wants to stay by keeping the core together and trying to get younger and build more pieces around. So they are still believing in the idea that even when three guys take up the majority of your cap space and of your entire salary cap, that you can still win by finding the gems. He said, our job is not to find the Joel Embiids and Paul Georges. It's our job to find the Yabuselis. So we'll get into that more. But on the outlook for the rest of the season, Daryl Morey says, we are excited for this stretch where we may finally see our three stars play together, and we think that group has a real shot. And a little bit more adding on to that. And the reason, I guess, that I'm a little bit confused is, again, he comes out right away and he's like, we were going to stay in the first apron, but then based on how the season has gone, we decided to make the decision of, getting rid of some players, ducking the tax. And we thought that was what would be best for us. But then at the same time, he's trying to shell out this, hey, we can still make the playoffs. We could be a dangerous threat and we could do this and that. But of course, it depends on the injuries. And here's what Daryl Morey said about Joel Embiid's injury. Quote, "Our understanding from talking to multiple doctors, 8, 9, 10 at this point, is that the injury will improve, but it has happened slower than anyone anticipated." He did confirm it was from that injury last January. And like I said, somebody should have asked him, well, why did Joel play in the Olympics? Nobody really asked that question, but they're still managing this injury. They don't really know. And back in the offseason, we heard that they had talked to 9 doctors and they still decided to give him that extension. And matter of fact, shout out to Sixer Daily, who summarized everything for us. They actually asked him about that Joel Embiid extension. And I'm trying to find the quote. Here it is. Morey on the Embiid extension, quote, "We thought it was the right move at the time, and we still think it is the right move now." Remember what I said a couple days ago? how Daryl Morey and the front office are going to continue to try to preach hope here, right? And they're going to try to continue to sell Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, and that idea, along with Jared McCain, Yabusele, and some other pieces, like they're still going to try to make us buy into that. I just don't think people want to hear it anymore. And I think if this season continues to go the way it does, say the Sixers get bounced in the first round, they come back next year, is anybody going to have hope that these guys can stay healthy? I don't think anybody denies, based on the sample size, yeah, if we saw them for, 70 games, sure, we might have some hope, but that's not going to happen. And the fact that they're just going to keep going down this winding road and they just, want to play this whole thing out, I just think it's a mistake. And we all kind of know that at this point, but he did double down on that. Again, I didn't like how he came out and was back and forth, right? The good quote here was, we wanted to get younger and more dynamic at the trade deadline. That was the first thing he said. That was the primary goal. He talked about moving Caleb Martin, bringing in Quentin Grimes, how Quentin Grimes could fit both defensively and offensively with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain. So I like that, right? He talked about the older signings on the roster. Didn't say it was his fault. He just said we went older rather than younger, and now we're trying to move off some of those other pieces. But when you look at it overall, he talked about Drummond, Gordon, Joel, PG. The main thing was we didn't get to see the potential of the team because they got injured. And that's great and dandy, right? Just tell us you're getting younger, trying to build more draft capital for the future. But then when you double back and say, we're still going to make the playoffs, and I think he said something like, Cleveland doesn't want to see us in the first round and we could be a threat. And there was a funny quote here. This one is the one everybody's talking about. I know you have to squint a little bit, but we feel like this team can still win the championship. Like, do you really believe that, Daryl Morey? Do you really, really believe that? I mean, come on. At some point, you got to realize how smart Philadelphia fans are. They are not going to continue to buy this, man. They're not going to continue to buy this. Now, he did talk about the future flexibility. He said this has been a disappointing year, and eyeing future flexibility was the biggest reason for shedding KJ's salary. Shout out to Kyle Neubeck, who tried to, dive more into that. Like, hey, this was your mess, right? You had KJ as a trade domino, and then you had to give away draft picks to get off the contract, which is really the main thing I'm frustrated about. And he responded to that with a bunch of word salad. But the gist of his message was, look at the holistic approach. Look at the overall approach. We got more draft picks back than we gave out. That was his answer to that. And I thought that was a terrible answer. Like, you still didn't have to get rid of KJ, to give up 2 seconds, right? You could have waited till the end of the season, but the idea was to duck the tax. So when he comes back and he says one thing, their goal was to stay in the first apron. Well, was it? Was it? Because pretty much it looks like you're throwing in the towel. And the second thing he said was, Josh Harris, Dave Blitzer, and the ownership has been very engaged and communicative and inspired and all this stuff. And we know that's a damn lie. That's just a damn lie at this point. So didn't like that. I do like what he said about Yabusele. He says, I don't think you can ever feel confident in an unrestricted free agent. But again, we feel very good. So, he did emphasize Yabu. They're going to try to bring him back. That's the good part. We'll see what the dollar figure is. But he did give a lot of credit to Tyrese Maxey, the young guys, and Nick Nurse for keeping us in the playoff race. Now, he did say that Nurse has done a great job developing young players, bringing them along. My response to that will be, well, why didn't you trade Andre Drummond and Eric Gordon? That way these young guys could get even more time, because we know that Nick Nurse is still going to prioritize Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond. So, again, that's why I gave them a C-, because I feel like they should have got a little more draft capital and got rid of some of those expendable contracts. And he said that there will be combos about Justin Edwards and Jared Butler from their two-way deals converting into standard deals. But again, my question is, will Nick Nurse actually play Jared Butler? Will he play Justin Edwards? He said they've had their eye on Jared Butler for a long time. Yeah, since what, January 8th, when he dropped 26 off the bench. So the Sixers are doubling down. A lot of people are not going to like this. Some good things said, but overall, just a very, again, jumbly back and forth type of press conference. And I don't understand why the owners aren't out here. They left Daryl out. But it is funny, on a football Friday before the Super Bowl, they do this press conference, so there's not a lot of media shine on it. And that's where we're at. I guess it'll just be riding it out the rest of the season and seeing where the Sixers land, because according to Daryl Morey and the rest, they're going to try to make the playoffs. They're going to try to go in, and they still believe that when healthy, Maxey, Embiid, and PG can win. The question is, will they ever get healthy? So we'll see what happens, man. But give me your thoughts on the presser down below. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.